April 2025 is set to be another huge month for gaming, with a ton of new games coming out, updates to existing games that myself and a ton of other people are extremely excited for, as well as one of the games coming out is one of my most anticipated games of 2025 in general. And for the first game, we have Steel Hunters coming out on April 2nd on PC. And there's a lot of things to be excited about here. Number one, the developer is Wargaming, the same company who made World of Tanks, which a lot of people to this day still really enjoy. On top of that, it's going to be free to play. It's coming out just in a few days, as I mentioned, and it's going to be a new take on the battle royale and extraction shooter genre, being a third-person shooter with a blend of both of these modes. In addition, there's also going to be some hero shooter elements here with 7 different heroes, which they actually call hunters in this game, that are going to have different abilities that might be good at different things. And by pairing these with your duo partner, which this game primarily focuses on, you can create the best team comp for you. These hunters are also supposed to have some customization here with multiple different build options and multiple different gear combinations when you do extract what you find within the game. That is going to be able to change up the way that you're playing your specific hunter. Lastly here, the gameplay is going to be broken up on 3 very large scale maps, with all of these maps having destructible environments. So if you're interested in a third-person battle royale that is also an extraction shooter, that also has hero shooter elements thrown in there with destructible environments, gigantic maps, a little bit of RPG power scaling mechanics with the different build customization and gear options that you have, this is going to be the game for you. It is also, again, by a developer who has already made a game multiplayer specific that players really enjoy. Now moving on to the next game, we have Paradise that's releasing on April 2nd on PC, and this is a very weird one considering a lot of people don't even think this game is real, and I think it really breaks down to this game and this developer are using a ton of pre-made assets, not necessarily their own assets to create this game, with a lot of other people saying this is just trying to capitalize on GTA 6 before GTA 6 actually comes out. But it is one of the most wishlisted games on Steam as of right now, so I thought I'd cover it because people are obviously excited about it. If it comes out and it's a complete scam, if it's a terrible game, a buggy game that you can hardly play, I am sorry, but so far it doesn't look like that, but it kind of does. But what even is this fake/real game? Well, Paradise is supposed to be a full life simulation game that is supposed to have completely limitless possibilities, whether you can play with friends, you can engage in different shootouts, you can race, complete daily missions, and pretty much just live life in this game kind of like you would in GTA Online. Now on top of this, something that I thought was very interesting is all of the different NPCs in this game are supposed to be fully broken down by AI, and by an advanced AI where you can actually talk to every NPC in this game. And you do this by just talking through your microphone to these different NPCs in the game that are supposed to respond most likely with AI dialogue. And honestly, I don't know how important this is going to be to the game, but it is cool. You can just walk up to any NPC and have a full-ass conversation using voice commands. It's interesting to me. They're also supposed to have real voices, emotions, and reactions depending on your actions in this world, trying to make them actually feel like true and living people with their own backstory, their own job, their own daily routine. It's pretty crazy. And on top of that, the world does look pretty beautiful and realistic from what we've seen so far, with different oceans, beaches, even forests, and obviously a city and skyscrapers. And there's supposed to be a lot here that is going to enhance the feeling of actually being in that realistic world. There's also even supposed to be crime systems and pursuing relationships within the game, and there's just so much here. It's supposed to mirror real life as much as possible. Now again, is this game going to be polished? Is any of this stuff going to work the way it says it's actually supposed to work? I don't necessarily know, but a lot of people, again, are excited, and the things that they're doing here, albeit very ambitious, do seem very cool. And if you want that taste of GTA 6 Online or RP before it comes out, hop in this game and see what it's like. Now, coming up next, we actually have a remastered game, which is going to be The Last of Us 2 Remastered. That's releasing on April 3rd on PlayStation 5 and on PC for the first time. Now, of all games, did this one really need a remaster? I'm not here to answer that. But regardless, remasters are always a really good way to hop into some of these legendary games or some of these legendary franchises like The Last of Us is, albeit with The Last of Us Part 2 probably being a little bit less liked than the original game. But aside from the graphical upgrades here, there is going to be actual new content released with the remastered version as well. The biggest one here, kind of reminiscent of Valhalla from God of War Ragnarok, they are getting a roguelike survival mode in Last of Us Part 2, where you go through a series of different randomized encounters. You're going to be fighting different enemies within locations that you might have played through already in The Last of Us Part 2, all obviously culminating in a boss battle. This mode is also going to feature some gameplay modifiers and some different challenges as you kind of fight and survive through all of these different encounters, and you can actually play as a variety of different characters as well, including never before played characters like Dina, Jesse, Lev, Tommy, and even more than that, with unique traits that kind of distinguish each of the characters and their playstyles from each other. And then you can even unlock skins as you progress them and use them specifically in this mode. I don't believe you can use them in the actual main game. So it does look like they went pretty damn hard with this mode. We'll have to see what it's actually like when it does release. But on top of that, you are also going to be able to play early development versions of 3 new levels that you haven't played before in the original Last of Us Part 2. On top of even that, you have a guitar free play with new instruments, you have a speedrun mode, and you now have the photo mode, with this game also featuring new unlockable characters and weapon skins for both Ellie and Abby. So there's a lot here on top of just the graphical increases that they're doing for the remaster. So if you haven't played this game and you're on PC, for example, or you're somebody who loved this game and it's just been dying for another playthrough, this is going to probably be the best way to do so with all of the new content and with hopefully the best looking version of this game we've ever seen. Now moving on to the next game, another PC release on April 3rd, we have the game called Sand, and kind of similar to Steel Hunters, this is going to be a PvE, PvP extraction shooter, albeit this one first person and not third person. What's cool about this game and makes it very different from Steel Hunters from earlier is one of the main goals here is design and deploy things called tramplers, which are these giant bases that can kind of literally stand up and walk through this giant desert-like sand environment as you're fighting other enemy tramplers and other teams that might build or design their own, and all of that does seem really cool. And they went pretty damn hard with these in general. They're obviously going to be one of your biggest weapons in the game within your trampler. It's also going to be your companion. It's also going to be your biggest mode of transport. It's going to be your main base, your primary storage, protection from other enemies or the elements of the world, with also tons of different customization options for the size, the layout, the placements of all of its different parts, like its compartments or its engine, its storage, or even its weapons. And in addition to all of this, you still have that first-person extraction shooter gameplay, so you're going to need to get out there and loot and go out into the world aside from your trampler as well. So again, if you're someone who likes extraction shooters, this definitely could be the one for you. It's going to be first-person, it's going to have a ton of building mechanics, as well with that build that you do create, literally getting up and moving around it, acting like a weapon and your base at the same time. This one could be awesome. Now moving on, we have a game that was talked very greatly at the developer showcase for Xbox a few months ago, and this is South of Midnight, which is going to be releasing on April 8th. And this game is going to be both on PC as well as Xbox Series X and S. Now, if you don't know, this is created by Compulsion Games, the same studio who made games like Contrast and very popular We Happy Few. And because of that, you already know that this game is going to have a very artistic, unique, and distinct art style from other games. And within this universe, which is going to be in the American Deep South, you're going to be playing as a character named Hazel. And one day, a hurricane and disaster just destroys her hometown, and with Hazel apparently becoming a weaver, is going to be able to use this magic to mend broken bonds and spirits, imbue herself with different abilities as she confronts different dangerous creatures that are going to be reminiscent of things from this southern folklore. There is definitely a big focus on the narrative here, with also a focus on that third-person action combat. Unfortunately, I will say, in my personal opinion, the studio has never been great at making extremely good-feeling combat, so hopefully they turn that around with this game. But just in general, you pretty much know that the narrative and the story and the voice acting and the world itself is going to be pretty top-notch. So if you are a fan of compulsion games, if you are interested in this story and these characters and how unique and cool this world looks, as well as Southern folklore, this could be a very interesting game and a very fun one for you. Now moving on to the next game, we have Mandragora. No, not the item from Monster Hunter Wilds, but this is a Metroidvania-like dark fantasy game, which is super cool to me, and it's going to be releasing on pretty much everything. It's going to be on Switch, it's going to be on Xbox, PlayStation, and on Steam and the Epic Game Store for PC. And I genuinely think this game is going to be pretty damn awesome. It's actually one that I'm extremely excited for. Number one, because of its pretty much fully hand-painted world, and number two, because I do think it's kind of a unique take on Metroidvanias, making it very similar to kind of ARPGs or just RPGs in general in terms of its progression. You're going to be able to play as 6 different distinct classes, all with their own abilities. The Vanguard, the Flameweaver, the Spellbinder, the Nightshade, the Wild Warden, and the Vindicator. And all of these different classes, again, have their own abilities, but also are going to have their own talent trees you can level up and go down, as well as being able to equip yourself with different pieces of armor and different weapons that are going to obviously progress your character as well. And then all of that plus crafting just makes me really excited about this game. A hand-painted world, a Metroidvania set in the dark fantasy environments, which we've seen in games like Blasphemous, for example, but on top of that, all of these RPG progression mechanics that I'm extremely excited about. Now, aside from this, it is supposed to be extremely difficult. They literally say on the website, be prepared to destroy a remote or two while you're playing this game, so I think a lot of the Souls-likes or the From Software fans in general are going to find this one very appealing too. Now, moving on to the next game, we actually have a re-release of a game from way back in the day that also had a television series that was relatively good, that was tied to it. This is Defiance, which is going to be releasing on April 18th. And this one's also going to be on Xbox, PlayStation, as well as PC. Now, if you don't remember, Defiance was an MMO that came out way back in the day that I actually played as a kid and actually thought it was pretty damn fun. It had pretty much everything that most theme park or standard MMOs have. You're going to have your story, you're going to have your different side quests, which you can obviously do solo or co-op with your buddies. In addition, you're going to have PvP here, you're going to have group dungeons, you're going to have raids, you're going to have dynamic events that pop up in the world, different classes that all have their own progression systems, a different gear that you can find, and pretty much it is a standard MMO that came out back in the day. But again, from what I remember, it was pretty fun, it was pretty good, it's a lot better than a lot of these MMOs that are coming out nowadays, and honestly, I could see it still having a pretty big fan base in a resurgence here in 2025, with people wanting to go back to the way MMOs used to be a lot of times. So if you used to be a fan of Defiance, if you're a fan of the TV series and want to experience that lore in game format, if you kind of just love MMOs and want to revisit this kind of relic of the past being revived, go check it out. Now moving on, we're finally here at my most anticipated game of this month. And again, one of my top 5 to 10 most anticipated games in general this entire year. We have Clair Obscur Expedition 33. And this game is going to be coming out on April 24th and will be releasing on Xbox Series X and S, on PlayStation 5, as well as on PC. Now, if you haven't heard of Expedition 33, it is a single-player game that blends action combat as well as its turn-based combat with, granted, probably a little bit heavier focus on turn-based in general. And you're going to be playing as a group of 4 different characters that are going through one of the coolest setup worlds and stories that I've heard in a very long time, and is one of the biggest reasons why I'm excited to play this game. In this world, there's something called the Paintress, and the Paintress is going to paint or write a number every single year with that number descending, and that number is going to correlate to the age that just completely dies once that number is painted. So for example, if the painter paints 30, everybody 30 dies, and the next year they're going to do 29, and everybody 29 dies, and they're going to continuously doing that until the whole world is just straight up erased. And you and your party members' goals are basically to go on the 33rd expedition and go fight the Paintress and try to end this cycle of them just killing off the oldest people of society every single year. Now, as you go through this journey, you're going to experience obviously more of the story, more of the lore in this world in general. You're also going to be seeing different things from previous expeditions before you. And you're going to be fighting through a ton of different enemies and bosses using characters that are pretty much their own classes, that are going to have very unique and distinct abilities on their own that also work with each other. And like I said, the combat is going to be a mix of that turn-based and action combat. So, for example, these characters are going to have, obviously, abilities that you can click. Some of them won't require it, but some of them will require you to actually click something on your keyboard or your remote to time that ability perfectly, or to be able to get that ability off in general. Now, on defense, you're also going to have to, in real time, react to things by dodging or parrying them that might actually cause another action for you to do a counter-strike or something like that as well. So there's going to be a lot of mechanics here that are going to require you to be paying attention and doing things in real time, plus choosing your abilities in a turn-based manner as well. Now, lastly, the world is just inspired by like a French Gothic feel. There's so many different really uniquely cool environments. The artistic team went absolutely insane with the way this game looks and the way this game sounds, specifically with the music. So if you are excited for this, again, it's one of my most anticipated games of the year. If you like turn-based games, if you like just story-focused RPGs and RPG progression in general, this is definitely going to be the one for you. Even if you don't necessarily like turn-based games, this could be one you could get into because it does blend that action combat with it as well. Now, lastly, we have a strategy game called Tempest Rising that's going to be releasing on PC on April 24th. And what's interesting about this game is it's an RTS. We do not have a lot of new RTS games coming out in 2025, and it's described as being that classic RTS experience, but meeting modern production and firepower and performance. And what's also really cool about it is it's set in an alternate universe in 1997, years after the Cuban Missile Crisis escalates into a nuclear World War III. And in the wake of this devastation, a mysterious and beneficial electrical plant begins spreading across the globe, with other dangers also within there, as well as the origin of what they call this Tempest is actually revealed. There's going to be 2 story-driven campaigns here where you're going to be able to play as 2 of the 3 factions. The ones that you're going to be able to play and be the commander of within these campaigns is number 1, the Tempest Dynasty. The other is the Global Defense Force, with a 3rd faction being able to be played called the Veti. So in general, if you like RTS games, I think you should probably give this one a try if you're interested. It is good to support a genre, especially when games from that genre haven't really been coming out too frequently as of late, especially as much as they used to back in the day when Warcraft and Starcraft were popping off. And honestly, if you haven't played an RTS before, maybe this is one that you're interested in and want to jump into. Now, aside from these, there are games, specifically in the ARPG genre, that are getting pretty big updates this month that a ton of people, including me, are very excited about. And the first one here is Path of Exile 2 Dawn of the Hunt, which is going to be releasing on April 4th on console as well as on PC, anywhere you've already played or could play Path of Exile 2. Now, the first and biggest thing coming in this new update is a brand new class called the Huntress that uses a spear that specializes in both melee and ranged combat, dashing in and out of battle. Now, this Huntress class is also going to be coming with 20 brand new Huntress abilities, and then on top of this, they're also releasing a new Ascendancy class for the Warrior called the Smith of Kitava, which supposedly they are master blacksmiths and have the ability to literally forge their own weapon. They're also adding a very anticipated ability that people wanted in this game for a long time, Raise Spectre. That's something I'm extremely excited about as a minion person myself who always plays minions on my first playthrough, and they're also adding an ability to summon your own row amount as a minion that you can hop on in or out of combat to ride around and increase your speed. And for most games, that would be it, but that's not even half of what is coming in this brand new free update. You're going to be getting more than 100 new support gems, more than 100 new unique items as well. There's going to be multiple new encounters with new enemies that have brand new mechanics that are going to also be dropping brand new rewards. One is the Asmarian Wisps, another is the Rogue Exiles. They're also going to be adding 4 new unique Strongbox encounters. They're adding a brand new endgame mechanic called Cleansing the Corruption, which is going to be home to 3 new bosses that are also going to have cleansed maps after you complete it that has additional new monsters, a new boss, and their own sets of modifiers and rewards. Tons of improvements are coming to the end game as well, with 7 new maps you can run in the end game, as well as just general improvements specifically to the towers, which have been reduced with how many there are, but they've been made more powerful. The tablets that you put on these are going to cover twice as many areas, and running these higher tier maps in towers also is going to increase this number. In addition, these towers can now consume up to 3 tablets at once. And last but not least, they're also adding a new mechanic to the game in general, called Corrupted Essences, which allows you to use a Val Orb to corrupt an Essences encounter with a range of unpredictable outcomes. Now, if you're like me, huge PoE 2 enjoyer, put hundreds and hundreds of hours into this game, GGG is absolutely killing it. One of the best developers in the industry. This is basically going to be a brand new game with the amount of abilities and new builds and a new class and all of these new mechanics that are improving endgame and the game in general, new encounters. Oh my lord. This shouldn't be free. Thank God it is. Now moving on to another ARPG, Last Epoch, one of my favorite games. Absolutely love it. They're going to be having their Season 2 on April 17th called Tombs of the Erased. They actually did move this update back to April 17th from April 2nd because of the big PoE update that was announced. So shout out to Last Epoch, just in general, their development team, for being super transparent with their fan base. But what's actually coming in this update? So the first big thing is a new faction called the Woven. There's also going to be upgrades to the Monolith of Fates, and a lot of the classes are receiving pretty big changes, specifically the Sentinel, who's getting a full-on class overhaul. So very excited to see what that's like. There's going to be a lot of new endgame content. That's definitely a big focus here as well. There's going to be a new tomb and cemetery zones to explore, and there's also going to be a new champion and endgame bosses. So Tombs of the Erased, side zones found during regular monoliths are going to be a big thing here within this expansion. The cemeteries of the Erased that I just mentioned are going to be a big thing here in this expansion as well as these woven echoes through that new faction that you're actually going to be able to craft yourself, which is one of their main endgame systems. This is honestly a great time to try this game for the first time or hop back into it like I'm definitely going to be doing. There's a ton of stuff that they've been adding to the game all the way even before launch that this development studio has been very consistent with. So I think they're definitely a good studio to support, and I think Last Epoch is one of the best ARPGs out there. Maybe probably just second to Path of Exile in my personal opinion. Another top-down RPG, this one more of a survival RPG in V Rising, is getting one of its biggest updates ever. And this is going to be coming at the end of April on the 28th. Now the first big thing that they're adding is a brand new forest biome. And within this biome, there's going to be new enemies, bosses, and dark magic techniques. In addition, you can now put a battle arena in your castle and customize different one-on-one battles with friends. There's even going to be 3 brand new weapons here. Wolverine-style claws, a twin blade, as well as throwing daggers. So there's going to be a ton of different new ways to play, new areas to play in, on top of those one-on-one battle arenas that you can have in your castle. Now, I personally haven't been someone that has hopped into V Rising and played the living hell out of it, but I know for a lot of people that do, and a lot of people that I know that love the game, they're extremely excited about this update. So if you haven't played it, this is a great time to jump in for the first time, and if you have, I'm sure you're excited about all of these brand new updates coming to the game. Now moving on to another ARPG, we have Diablo 4 having its 8th season releasing on April 28th, obviously on consoles and PC. Now this is a even-numbered season. If you're a Blizzard fan, even-numbered seasons, you know, are usually better than odd-number seasons, so that's good for a lot of you Diablo fans out there. But there's going to be new layer bosses, there's going to be new and updated boss mechanics, there's a new seasonal mechanic here called Boss Powers, a new world event called Apparition Incursions, there is going to be new seasonal items, there's going to be a new seasonal journey, blessings, and a battle pass. You're going to get a new story and quest line here, you're going to get that new reputation here with new legendary aspects and uniques as well. Now the boss power mechanic does function similarly to the witch powers from season 7. They're going to allow players to absorb powers from the bosses that they slay across Sanctuary. There's going to be 24 boss powers in total, including 10 magic, 9 rare, and 5 legendary. And with the new event, the Apparition Incursions, there are going to be basically new open world events that culminate in players fighting multiple bosses. There are a total of 10 bosses, each which grant you a boss power. So that's kind of how you're going to get a lot of these boss powers as you're leveling up, and it is pretty much just going to be a worthwhiling level activity for the most part, operating as kind of lesser versions of the world bosses. So like I've said for the previous games, Great time to hop in is always a new season when everybody's going to be creating their new characters and running through all of this content with a new build, or maybe a build for the first time if you're just hopping into this game. And people that are die-hard Diablo 4 fans are probably really excited about this as well. Now, last but definitely not least, a game that I really enjoyed, No Rest for the Wicked, is releasing an update called The Breach on April 30th that is adding a ton into this game. Now, if you haven't heard of this game, it is another ARPG, but more of just a top-down Souls-like with a beautiful art style like Moon Studios did with Ori and the Blind Forest. And they are going to be adding, like I mentioned, a lot here. The first thing is expanding their weapon arsenal by adding gauntlets and wands. The new areas are also going to be packed with a wide range of new enemies, like they gave examples here, the Timber White and the Rust Reavers, along with a lot of new bosses that are obviously going to be blocking you from moving forward into the game, with these bosses tending to be very hard at times as well. There's also going to be secrets scattered around the map that you can encounter when exploring new areas, and then certain parts of the map also might be affected by something called blight, forcing players to have to find new routes or fight new enemies in order to still progress through the level. Now that's a lot, but that's not it. They are also going to be adding, which a lot of players wanted, a hardcore mode into the game with certain quality of life features, like adding more items to your chest and a brand new item that's going to enable you to fast travel back to your home. If you haven't played this game, I definitely recommend picking it up. It's a very good experience, especially if you like harder games that are similar to Souls-like experiences, but there's a lot of extra things on top of that here that makes it very distinct, and a lot of the progression is tied similarly to what an ARPG would be like, and all that together I think just makes a really good, visceral, fun experience. And with all of this new content, it's going to be the best that it's ever been. All right, we are finally at the end. There are so many new games and new updates for existing games that are coming out next month. Even one that I'm extremely excited for, one of my most anticipated ones in Clair Obscur Expedition 33, which I cannot wait to play and review on this channel. Let me know down below, what are you most excited for? And did I mention a game here that you hadn't heard about that you're now excited to try? I would love to hear what you guys have to say. Thank you guys for watching the video. Like and subscribe if you are new to the channel, and thank you guys so much for the support. If you are returning here, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.